February 1991. 5 books. That's all I read that month. But it's a short month. It's February. And we're going to jump right in with the first book. This was the second book that I had to read for my fantasy literature class at Bowling Green State University. If you watched last week's video, you know that The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was the first book. This is the second book I had to read for that class. It is the second time I have read this book. I'm just teasing, leading up to this. But this will show, and some of the other titles that'll come up next week's video, next month of the of my reading list. It shows that when it says fantasy literature, they're using fantasy in the broadest sense. Basically anything fanciful. Wonderful Wizard of Oz is the only book that actually sort of would fit in what most people would think of as a fantasy book. But the class basically covered, as I said, anything. How would I put it? Besides fanciful, which was the word I already used. Let's just say they're like anything that has to do with. Well, the last book we had to read for the class, which I didn't read, had to do with sexual fantasies. So, again, fantasy literature, anything. I'm teasing so much. Let's just get to the book. It is The Shining by Stephen King. As I said, this is the second time I read this. Do I need to say what it's about? Jack Torrance and his family go to a hotel in Colorado where Jack has been hired as the winter caretaker, and spooky things happen because it's Stephen King. It's a classic. I enjoyed this book. I didn't mind having to read it a second time. I could have gotten away with not reading it again, but why not? A great book. A lot of people think that Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining is one of the best horror movies ever made. I'm not a fan of, what's his name, Jack Nicholson. I think a lot of the time he's just playing the same character. I do enjoy, for what it's worth, the miniseries that was made with Steven Weber and Rebecca De Mornay. It follows the book more closely. So, anyway, that's all neither here nor there. The book is The Shining, Stephen King. First book I read in February of 1991. Second book was Wild Cards Volume 2, Aces High, edited by George R.R. Martin. This is the second in his superhero world, where around World War II, something triggered some genes in people, and some people got like really good powers. Those are the aces. Some people got really horrible, deforming powers. Those are the jokers. In this book, which has, I think, fewer authors contributing, and George R.R. Martin himself contributing a bunch of the stories. So there's a lot of, I think in the first book it was mostly different authors, a different author on each story. In this one, if I'm not mistaken, it's a bunch by George R.R. Martin, a bunch by, or at least a few by other authors. So there's a mix, but not nearly as much as the first one. Anyway, in this one, the idea of all these stories is that there's an alien invasion, and the jokers and the aces have to work together. So each story has something to do with that, I believe. Next up, Perchance to Dream by Robert B. Parker. This is a sequel to Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep. So it's a Philip Marlowe novel. I believe it's completely original. Prior to this, Robert B. Parker wrote a book called Poodle Springs that is considered a collaboration with Raymond Chandler, because he used notes. I don't know if there were just notes or if there were some pages already, if it was like an unfinished manuscript or just notes for the story. But either way, Robert B. Parker finished it. I believe this one is completely original on Robert B. Parker's part. If you look at the cover, I think it just says a novel by Robert B. Parker, or like Robert B. Parker's sequel to Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep, something like that. But anyway, it's Philip Marlowe taking on a new case that somehow, I guess, must tie into the original. It's been obviously ages since I read it. But it's Robert B. Parker, it's Philip Marlowe, it's good stuff. Book number 4. Man, we're almost at the end already. Lullaby by Ed McBain. This is, according to what I looked up, the 40th 87th Precinct novel. There's basically 2 storylines going on. It's New Year's Eve. Some parents come home from celebrating and find the babysitter and their child murdered. So I got to look at my notes. Detectives Corello and Meyer, or Meyer, however you say it, they're investigating this. At the same time, Detective Kling is investigating drug trafficking. And it's the 87th Precinct novels, some of the best police procedural novels out there. If you're into that sort of stuff. Nowadays, I don't know how people feel about that. Finally, the last book in February 1991, Indiana Jones and the Peril at Delphi by Rob Mcgregor. This is the first of the original Indiana Jones novels. There were a few. I don't think there were too many. And as the title says, it has to do with the Oracle of Delphi. It's uncovered, or something is uncovered that could lead to it. And there's a woman that kind of seduces Indiana Jones into finding what needs to be found because she wants to become the Oracle of Delphi and take over England, possibly? I don't know. I was very excited about this because I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I've never seen the 4th Indiana Jones movie. Second one is Third one's pretty good. I love the first one. So I was very excited and disappointed. I just didn't think it was written very well, or I didn't like the writing style. I don't know if, I can't remember if Mr. Mcgregor was trying to make it feel like a pulp, because I didn't get that feeling. You know, the Indiana Jones movies are very pulpy, action serial, old-fashioned kind of thing. And I've read a lot of pulp stuff. If you've watched my channel a lot, you know that. And I just didn't get, I don't know, I thought it was boring, if I remember correctly. So I don't even know if any of the other novels, I don't remember if any of the other novels are on this list, because I do remember not being thrilled with this book. Excuse me, so that's it. As I said, just 5 books in February. I was in college. I was busy studying, not going out and partying, not having house parties and things. I lived off campus, and in a house that there was myself and my roommate downstairs, and then there were 2.5 guys that lived upstairs, and then there was like an efficiency that I think was also upstairs, but we didn't know that guy really, whoever lived there. But one of the people upstairs, the half person, because he only had classes Tuesday and Thursday, or maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So he would just drive up to Bowling Green for 3 days, and then he'd go home for the 4. I mean, sometimes he'd come and stay the weekend if he didn't have to work back home. But he was the guy that I actually knew. When I was in Iceland, I applied to and was accepted to Bowling Green State University, and my buddy was already living off campus in this house. He knew the people. his roommates were staying. They hadn't graduated yet, and he had already gotten the downstairs place for a friend of his, and then he got me in to the downstairs place as well. But we had all our cable and stuff was all hooked up together, and the entertainment systems were hooked up together. I mean, we could watch whatever we wanted, but we could also, set things up so that the same thing was playing on all the TVs. So we would have, like, the one guy, or a couple of the guys were big Jimmy Buffett fans. So we had like this Jimmy Buffett house party where they had a Jimmy Buffett concert playing on all the TVs in the place. And everybody was upstairs, downstairs, having a good time. But that in no way kept me from reading. No, wouldn't keep me away from books. Anyway, let's see. This isn't really a book. Well, okay, I can make this a book question. So we had Indiana Jones and the Peril at Delphi. So, which is an original story based on Indiana Jones. So there are plenty of properties that have original novels. Obviously, Star Wars, probably the biggest one. Although arguably Star Trek. There's probably... Oh, I don't even think it's probably. I would say there's definitely more Star Trek novels at this point than Star Wars. But those are probably the two biggest. And then there's original Alien stuff. I'm looking at them right now. Predator. Some for Planet of the Apes. And things like Monk and Psych and Murder, She Wrote. Murder, She Wrote, there's a ton, and they're still coming out. Law and Order had some original novels. Elementary had one or two. So, I mean, there's tons. So my question is, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, another huge one. Babylon 5, I could just keep going. What IP, intellectual property, what movie or TV series, I guess the movie doesn't have to be a series. It could be just there was one movie and you want to see it continued. Oh, God, I just gave away the question. What property would you like to see original material written for? Oh, Firefly. I'm looking at Firefly novels right there. So what property would you like to see original novels written for? That's the question. Do I have an answer? Well, I have so many already. There's 2 Big Trouble in Little China novels. I've got a G.I. Joe short story collection. If you watched my book haul video, you just saw I have 2 Transformers novels. Although I think those are more based on the comic books that were coming out at the time than anything else. And I just got some new Star Trek novels. Well, old. New to me. Geez, so what would I want to see? That's a tough question. I really should think of these things ahead of time. See, I would tend to go towards comic book characters, since I have a ton of comic book novels already. There are tons of characters I would love to see get their own novels. But that wasn't the question. It was movies or TV shows. Man, I stumped myself just trying to think of like every movie, TV show, and such that I've enjoyed, and it's just too much. It's overwhelming. Trying to think of a series of movies. I can't say Friday the 13th because that's been done. I would love to get those books. I used to have them. And during one of the times when I needed to pay bills and didn't have any money, they were sold, and now they're really expensive and hard to find. And they even did some Jason X books. I don't know. I was thinking Dark Man, but that was done. There were some original Dark Man novels. I was going to cheat. I still may cheat. No, you know what? I think I'm gonna go with, this is gonna be an odd one because it's actually 3 movies based on stories. So I'm gonna go with Reanimator. I don't know if it's sustainable, but so of course H.P. Lovecraft wrote Herbert West Reanimator. I believe there's 3 stories with Herbert West that Lovecraft wrote. Then we had the movies, which are loosely based, just almost just inspired by. So there's Reanimator, Bride of Reanimator, Beyond Reanimator, or Reanimator Beyond. I don't know. Love them all. They get crazier as they go along. But how about a series of books about Herbert West? New stories. Actually, see, that's been done, but I haven't read them. I looked at one. It didn't seem like it was that interesting. So maybe that's a bad answer. Man, I'm really rambling. I'm pushing the length of this video for no reason. But I think that would be kind of cool. Based on the movies, though. So it'd be in that vein. Not trying to write it like it's H.P. Lovecraft. Not sequels to the Lovecraft stories, but novels based in the world of the movies. So I'm gonna stick with that for now, because this is one I really should have thought of first. I'm looking at like all the movies I have. Thinking about TV series. How about The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.? There we go. That would be fantastic. I loved that show. Lost in Space popped into my head first, which could be cool. Could be very cool. But then Briscoe County Jr. popped in. That could be a lot of fun. They added some weird stuff to it. I think there's even time travel in it. Because I think the main bad guy, Bly, I think that was his name. I haven't watched in a while. I think he ended up being like from the future or something. So you could do some really weird stuff. And with the popularity of the splatter westerns and things right now, I wouldn't go splattery. That's not, I mean, Briscoe County was very lighthearted. But, yeah, I would love a series of Briscoe County Jr. novels. Get the right author on there who can write the action but can keep it light and give us some pathos. There we go. I'm changing my answer. Reanimator's my B answer. My answer is The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. What do you think? Alright, that's it. This has gone on long enough. So, answer my question in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I've got for you this time. So until next time, read more books.